Hello and welcome to the Icons of the Realms one-shot challenge. So what is this challenge? I got myself one box of the Icons of Realms Tomb of Annihilation minis. This box contains 4 minis, usually 3 of them are small or medium, 1 is large, and they are randomly assorted. So what I'm going to do is, and this is the challenge, I'm going to unbox this box. I'm going to look at each mini, use D&D Beyond for some background information on the mini I'm going to find in here, and from that I'm going to try to construct a one-shot. A one-shot meaning an adventure to be played within 4 or 5 hours, one evening, and played all the way to its conclusion. So let's start. I'm going to open the box. Okay, let's have a look. What's in there? Okay, we have 3 small ones packed in plastic, wrapped. I don't see them right now, but I do see our large mini. Look at this. So this is a Garellen, whatever. So let's go to D&D Beyond and type it in and see what info it can give us. Okay, so the interesting part here on D&D Beyond is not to look at the stat block, but to look at the description. This may give us some idea. So we know here Garellans are forest hunters. So our adventure is going to take place probably in warm forest environments, and it's basically a battle-ready ape. So they have loose bands, several individuals, led by a dominant adult. Interesting here, the leader might organize members to work together to make a big kill. Let's see if this would come in handy for our adventure. Okay, they're wall climbers. The ruins of humanoid habitations, especially those found in deep forests and jungles, seem to attract Garellans. That's interesting. So we may have our setting already. So a group of adventurers might, for whatever reason, stumble upon some ruins, hope to find treasure or something. And the foes in there, the guardians by chance, may be our ape-like monsters. So let's see what it gives us some more. There is some magical origin to these monsters. So we read quickly through that blah blah. The Empire fell ages ago. That's a nice history. This might connect to our ruin where we will encounter those. They are cooperating with numerous other beasts, which might come in handy when we have a look at our 3 smaller minis. Also interesting, Garellans are known to be peaceful among their own kind, and some humanoids have learned how to approach a group's leader, offering food and other gifts in hope of establishing an alliance with the creatures. So, this opens up an interesting possibility. Perhaps we will present them as some guardians of the ruin or something, but perhaps in reality they're just there by chance and just want to live the life, but know perhaps how there's some method of accessing something deeper within the ruin, some deeper labyrinth or some other room where there's some treasure or whatever. So we might have here a fork in the road of the adventure. Either we have a combat encounter or we have a social encounter, all settled within our exploration. Let's read the last paragraph. Guerrillas that are treated well might be willing to serve as guards. That is really interesting. Though they lack the intelligence to take on tasks more complicated than attacking strangers that enter their domain. Everyone is taken young, but that's not going to happen. Perhaps it does. Let's see. If one is taken young and properly trained, they could use them because perhaps we have a single guerrillan, and this one, pet trained, leads the adventurers to somewhere else. So we have an alternative to our strategy of before between combat and social. Perhaps this is our quest hook. Let's see. Let's have a look at the others. First, smaller mini. Okay, what is this here? What do I have here? Okay, interesting. A red cap. Well, that's quite obvious, red cap. Let's see what D&D Beyond is going to tell us about it. So challenge rating is 3. The Guerrillan had challenge rating 4. Let's see. A redcap is a homicidal fey creature born of bloodlust. Redcaps, although small, have formidable strength, which they use to hunt and kill without hesitation or regret. So our little fairy figure here is actually quite evil. Bloodlust personified. Okay, so this might very well turn out to be the main encounter, not this one. Let's see. In the Feywild, or where the plane touches the world at a Fey crossing, if a sentient creature acts on an intense desire for bloodshed, one or more redcaps might appear where the blood of a slain person soaks the ground. So this is again an interesting opportunity. So we could have those as main villains, or if we have a band of murder hobos that go in and slay our potential social encounter, because of the crossing of the Feywild, these might appear and pose the actual encounter. Maybe even sometime after the players progressed, and when they come back with the treasure, these might be there. Let's see. At first, new redcaps look like tiny blood-stained mushrooms, just pushing their caps out of the soil. Okay. From the moment it awakens, this is interesting, a redcap desires only murder and carnage, so there's not much variation there. And it sets out to satisfy these cravings. Redcaps lack subtlety, yes, I had the impression. They live for direct confrontation and the mayhem of mortal combat. Okay, not stealthy, and be really vicious. Okay, nice. Steeped in slaughter. Next paragraph. To sustain its unnatural existence, a redcap has to soak its hat in the fresh blood of its victims. Nice turn. When a redcap is born, its hat is coated with wet blood, and it knows that if the blood isn't replenished at least once every 3 days, the redcap vanishes as if it had never been. Okay, so this is quite an incentive for the redcap. Last paragraph, bloodthirsty mercenaries. They don't usually operate in groups. Okay. But they might be found in the employ of hags and dark mages. So this might be a hint of what's behind them. Perhaps there are a few of those, but in reality there's someone who employed them as guardians of their treasure. So this little fella here is very bloodthirsty, maybe in the employ of some dark mage or a hag, and this already gives us a nice and interesting idea. So we have this ruin in the jungle, and there's some treasure down there, and players go there to find it. Above, in the ruin, and not really caring about the ruin or the treasure, is a band of Girellans. And this band of Girellans, I suppose one of them has been slaughtered recently. And now its remains lie in a pool of blood, from which forth is going to spring one of those redcaps. The Girellans mourn their dead companion, and when the adventurers, only half a day later, arrive at the scene, they assume that it was the adventurers who killed their companion. So they may be at first very hostile, but they're not super dumb, so they perhaps realize that the adventurers do pose a threat, a serious threat. So they, with their primitive means and aggressive behavior and outlook, may try to initiate a social encounter. And the player characters, on the other hand, may or may not accept this social encounter. If not, they're going to kill them all, probably, and search the ruin until they find some hidden entrance and go further to find treasure. Should they do so, when they come out again, the redcap or redcaps will be there, because they were born out of the blood of the killed Girellans. So if they do accept the social encounter and manage to communicate with the Girellans, and presumably our players will be between level 3 and 4. So they may be able to speak with animals or have some way of communicating. So if they manage to do that, the Girellans may tell them of the secret entrance, and they may guard them from the attack of the redcaps. Let's see. We have 2 more figures, and we're going to have a look at it. Actually, from those 2 figures, we could have a one-shot already, but I want to use all 4 of them. So, what is this? This is a Chultan zombie. Let's look at the zombie basic rules. I'm going to take this one. Doesn't look perfect like that, but I take the inspiration from that. So we have zombies. So I assumed we had a dark mage who could harness the redcaps. And I guess our dark mage is going to be a necromancer who's guiding his treasure down there, whatever there is, with raised, slaughtered adventurers. Perhaps he's building an army down there and he spreads rumors of a big treasure. So adventurers come, he would slaughter them and raise them to zombies, and once he has enough zombies, he's going to unleash them to fulfill his grand dreams. So let's see, they might be in the basement or whatever there is to come. So let's see, last one, here. Interesting, that's very different. This is a Tabaxi Hunter. So this is probably a player character. So what does our Tabaxi Hunter do? Well, he could be the guide for our players. He could be the one spreading the rumor of the treasure. And he goes to a city to presumably find companions that help him recover the treasure, and of course he's going to say, we share 50-50, 50 for me, 50 for you guys. And he's going willing to, you know, haggle a bit because he knows the treasure is not really the point. So he would be, if you use alignment, lawful evil, lawful to the dark mage, the necromancer that's hiding somewhere. And we have our story. Okay, let's wrap it up. What's our story? Chronological from the perspective of the players. They are sitting in some city in Schuld in a tavern. Where else? And they are being approached by a Tabaxi. The Tabaxi is offering a treasure hunt. He claims to have discovered an ancient ruin where he's very, very certain that there's quite the treasure. And now he looks for some companions because there are some feral apes who are guarding the ruin and he cannot go through it. So he has the players and he offers 50-50. He's willing to negotiate because, you know, the treasure is not the point. But he really wants to lure the players into the ruin. So they head out, they arrive at the ruin, and we have our first real encounter, which is going to be either a combat encounter or a social encounter. So they're going to arrive at a scene where there's a dead Girellan on the ground, in the middle of the ruin, some ancient Maya-style ruin in the jungle, you get the picture. So there are a bunch of Girellans around their dead comrade. It's a very gory, very bloody scene. And apparently, but the players don't know, the Girellans recognize the Tabaxi as being the perpetrator, as being the one who killed their friend. They want revenge. The Tabaxi wants them all to be killed, so to test and weaken the players and to set up the revenge scene we're going to come to in the last scene, the revenge scene with the red caps. So the Tabaxi wants a combat encounter. The Girellans want a social encounter because they want the Tabaxi to be handed over and killed, which they can easily do, but they will have a hard time against the players. And in fact, the idea is that the players would eventually defeat the Girellans, of course. So the Girellans, not being very adept at communicating peacefully with people, they try with their very aggressive looking means, try to bring across the message that the Tabaxi is to be handed over and the PCs may just leave. So, do the PCs, do the players understand it and act accordingly, hand over the Tabaxi? There will be a gory scene, but then it's over and it's peaceful, and the Girellans will show the players the hidden entrance. Or it turns into a combat encounter, what the Tabaxi really wants to do. And so if the social scene turns out to be, you know, taking place, the Tabaxi will just attack. He will try to provoke an attack because he's now in between two groups of enemies from his point of view. He will try to provoke an attack against the Girellans, make it early enough so the PCs have to decide whether to help the Tabaxi, who is going now to be shredded by the Girellans, or to stand aside because they think this is justice, whatever they do. So if it turns into a combat encounter, sooner or later the PCs are going to kill all the Girellans, make sure the Tabaxi survives. So after all the Girellans are killed and the smaller Girellans who are not fighters fled the scene, go ahead and let the Tabaxi show them the secret entrance. So either way, either the Girellans or the Tabaxi is going to show them the secret entrance, but the scene they leave behind is very different. Either all the Girellans are dead or they survive. So there's this secret entrance, some ancient stone trapdoor the Girellans lift without much effort, or the players together. They open it, and at once, as it always is, there will be some smell of some old and rotten and moldy dungeon. There's a staircase leading downward, no light at all. The players go down 1 or 2 stories and they enter a room, 1 square room, let's make it like 5 or 6 meters each side. And the room is going to look like you would expect the typical fantasy Mayan dungeon, with some, some frescoes, some slimy things, very, very unpleasant smell, very damp air. So there's an opening straight ahead. Nothing else is in the room, but through the opening, they can see in the dim light that they probably going to bring with them some sort of altar at the end of the next room. They enter the next room. It's again a chamber of 6 times 6 meters. At the end there's an altar, and there are going to be very nice things placed on the altar. Again, the whole decor is of Mayan style, and on the altar they will find a few candlesticks, a few coins, a few gems and jewelry, and whatever makes up a nice treasure. So if the Tabaxi is dead, we are going to have an exploration encounter. The players are going to go down, look at all the 2 rooms, and ideally, hopefully, at some point they're all going to be in the altar room. One of them is trying to pick up this big candlestick, and the moment they pick it up, they realize, oh, it's a lever, and they just sprung the trap. The trap being a huge slab of stone behind them, sealing the exit of this second chamber. Also, on the sides, left and right, secret stone doors are opening, and in come from each side zombies. The number of zombies I would suggest to put at equal to the players times 2, because they're really an easy encounter. So the zombies come in, attack the players, and in comes the Necromancer and starts casting and fighting as well, because he wants the players dead to be raised as zombies, and also he wants their equipment to get more and more powerful, how these types are. So this is one possibility. If they had a social encounter with the Girellans, the Tabaxi was killed. Should they have had a combat encounter with the Tabaxi? The Tabaxi is with them, and he goes down with them in this exploration encounter. He goes down with them, moves immediately forward to the second chamber and starts looking at the things and picking up coins and jewelry and stuff and yelling, yeah, we found it, come and see. So the players, hopefully, come and see. And once all of the players are inside, he says, wow, look at this nice candlestick, and he picks it up, but of course he knows that this will spring the trap, and this is exactly what happens. So the door shuts, the secret doors open, and the zombies come pouring in. After them, the Necromancer. We have the same scene as before, with the difference that this encounter of medium difficulty without the Tabaxi is going to be a hard encounter now, because the Tabaxi is going to pretend to find the zombie, but is going as a rogue, is going to stab one of the players in the back. And this is your encounter. This is the main boss fight. So here's one thing. Well, either the players go down, which is not the objective, but should be a possibility to make it interesting. But should the tide turn in the favor of the players, the Necromancer will see this and do 2 things. First of all, he's going to cast something that the players do not recognize. He's going to speak in an infernal. Should there be a player in infernal, they understand the words blood and gore. And once he has cast this, he's going to move out the door, out the secret door, and shut it again from the inside. So he takes himself out of the combat. So the players finish the combat. They can pick up all the treasure apart from the candlestick. They would have to break it off. And pushing the candlestick back is going to open the door again. So let them play around a bit. So once they explored everything, they come back out. And what they are going to see is the last encounter. Depending how they chose their first encounter with the Girellans. Either the Girellans were alive, they had a social encounter, and the Tabaxi was dead, so they come out and they see that the Girellans killed one little dwarf with a red hat. No big issue. Or they come out and they left quite a battlefield, a lot of blood, a lot of dead Girellans, and for each dead Girellan there's going to be a red cap waiting for them. One may stand right in the courtyard. The others may be hiding to spring at them, to jump at them from the back. And hopefully the players are quite exhausted. And this is going to be an interesting encounter and a surprising one. And one that reminds them of their actions of before, you know. Once a murder hobo, always a murder hobo. And you just give them what they want. You just accommodate to the playstyle. So they kill them or not. Anyway, they get home, have some treasure, adventure is over. There's one thread left to pursue. What happens to the Necromancer? Because the players are not going to be able to open the secret door from the inside, because there's another mechanism inside that is going to override the trap. So in the Necromancer's quarters, what happened is the Necromancer had another secret door and a secret exit, because he doesn't want to pass the Girellans all the time, and also the Tabaxi. That would be nonsensical. So he has a secret exit that leads to some distant place, about 100 meters away, also some part of this huge ruin, where he can emerge. And he did, and is gone, unless the players are really going to look for him, and then just play it or not as you see fit. Anyhow, the players are going to exit the ruin after a lot of fights, have made some Girellan friends or not, and have had an adventure. So this is it. My one-shot from the Icons of the Realms one-shot challenge. I'm going to title it Blood and Gore, because that's the key of the adventure that shows the moral decision. And, well, have fun playing it.